This is my first Disciples game, and boy what a poor introduction it is. Heard good things about this franchise, and I can see that there could have been a potential for a great game. This ain't it though. I would love to play a good Disciples game eventually, so if you've played all of them, let me know which one is the best and why. I like the idea of this game, Heroes of Might and Magic with real-time map travel. So where did it go wrong then? In this early review I'll try to explain. It's not a full review, meaning I haven't finished the game. So I'm reviewing the experience to mid Act 2, which is where I got to before dying of boredom. Unlocked tier 3 units, max is 4 tiers, tried them out, seen that Death Knight is a large penis with teeth and said no more. Only thing that got me playing for that long was the difficulty and the urge to try out stronger units. Played on max difficulty, which is brutal, and it was challenging in Act 1. Had to pick my fights, lost plenty of times, had to revisit strategy, rearrange the team, classic things when the game pushes you. Unfortunately, in Act 2 challenge was almost entirely gone, aside from rare encounters, and with it my desire to keep playing, because there's nothing that I can see from my experience that can hook a player to continue playing if the challenge is gone. There were still a few fights here and there that pushed me, but most were too easy. One of the mistakes this game does, you experienced bastards, is the experience system. Game would have been much better without it. As soon as the player goes 1 or 2 levels above the enemy, the challenge dissipates. By Act 2 I was almost always 1 or 2 levels above enemies. Without levels it would be much more balanced difficulty throughout the game. There's a limited amount of fights on each map, and if you're 3 levels above, there's a conquest option which automatically finishes the fight not to waste time, which is a good idea, but again it's a byproduct of the unnecessary EXP system. So with limited amount of fights on the map and the EXP system that ruins the balance, game is shooting itself in the foot by automatically resolving much weaker fights that are weaker only because of arbitrary levels put on enemy groups. And it's shooting itself in the foot by making later fights too easy due to over-leveled player team. And by over-leveled, it's enough being 2 levels above. Queen's leveling is a different story, as it's a good thing that there is a build progression for her, but the mistake was putting levels on units. I think unit levels are in the game to justify the castle management mechanic, so that it's not as shallow as a puddle, and yet it's still really shallow. One of the worst castle management systems I've seen in a long time. Inspired by mobile games, no doubt. Couple basic same options for each building to upgrade and train units. Blacksmith with merge shards and to upgrade equipment. Marketplace to buy equipment which randomly changes after some time. And the art style, or lack thereof, sucks. These are some of the most generic menus and fonts in existence. The way the castle looks is pathetic as well. So few details. Look at how drastic a change happens when a building is upgraded. Then there are grievances. Grievances are events that pop up that need resolving. Each faction has their own grievances. We make a decision based on the amount of available resources, which in turn increases reputation with the faction. Reputation thresholds unlock benefits like morale bonus, free units and others. Again, the whole system seems inspired by mobile games. No real depth here, just some filler stuff to occupy the player in the meantime. Worst of all, grievances constantly repeat themselves. There's like 5-6 grievance types for each faction that constantly rotate. Talk about creativity. Pathetic. It all ties into resource management, all of it based around real time spent with the game. Per hour we get a certain amount of resources by capturing mines, deposits and such. Every few seconds the number of resources increases in small amounts based on the amount of mines captured, and per hour is just a metric they have chosen to display as a final count. I think I understand what they tried to do. By making world traversal real-time, they also made everything connected to castle management real-time as well. Problem is that such a system means you are locked in the waiting game until resources are acquired to be able to upgrade and get new units. It's their way of countering bare bones maps and lack of proper management system that would be tied somehow to the map progression. Instead we get shallow, can't upgrade castle before reaching a certain part of the story bollocks that limits the already poor castle management system even more. So everything is tied to real time, which is an utterly idiotic idea for a single player game because it's tied to waiting and not with progression, because capturing mines just means there's gonna be more resources every minute in minuscule amounts. Want to cheat in this game with resources? Leave the game open before going to work, and when you come back you'll have all the resources needed. Or just use a cheat engine to save electricity. This whole system is something you can come up with when you don't know what to do with the game. It's piss poor, bare bones and copied from mobile games, which is always a good sign. It's no wonder they went with that type of system, because maps are bare bones. Couple quests here and there, mines to capture, few underground areas per map, and that's it. These are small regions, and the problem is that those are unlocked through story progression. If this was a big fully open world map right from the start, then there would be way more options on the map, so the whole per hour real-time castle management system wouldn't be necessary at all, because there could be detailed castle progression tied to map progression, where choices we make in the castle are permanent until more progression has been achieved, which would add a strategic layer to the whole management system. Instead, we get small bare-bones regions locked by story progression with the awful shallow uninspired real-time management. Alright, enough of that atrocity. Let's talk about combat. Best thing about this game, without a doubt. It's all about the factions and units with their unique strengths and weaknesses. There's 5 factions: elves, dwarves, humans, demons and undead. We can mix and match any way we want, but are limited with leadership stat. Tier 1, meaning weakest units, cost 10 leadership per unit. Tier 2 20, Tier 3 30. This is a good idea to never abandon lower tier units for the sake of higher ones. And every unit is useful. For example, a couple times it happened that I was cocky with Helmer by putting him way up front to get as many enemies on him as possible, thinking he would survive enough until everyone else does what they do best. Then a couple tier 1 units like the basic skeleton warrior swarmed him and brought him down faster than I expected because of the brittle status effect they apply with each strike, which lowers physical resistance by 5% and it stacks. Status effects from buffs and debuffs are vital to the outcome of a fight, which is a good thing. Every unit has 2 active skills, and every skill of every unit has an additional status effect like aforementioned brittle or taunt, burn, chill, slow, etc. Next to 2 active skills, there are passive skills that trigger when finishing a turn. Interesting strategic layer is action point management. Whenever there is action point remaining upon ending the turn, it is converted into a buff. That means there's no pointless actions. Everything we do creates an impact. Another good thing about action points is that there are different types: strictly movement action point, attack action point, and mixed, where we decide if we want to use it for an attack or movement. Usually melee units can attack twice, while ranged ones cannot. Would be too OP for ranged to attack twice, considering how powerful some of the attacks they have are. Major thing about fights is that we are fighting faction-specific groups. Each faction unit has a mix of different resistances and attack types. For example, Executioner unit is weak to primal damage, with decent resistances against Unholy, Divine and Physical. Regular attack that Executioner does is physical, but the skill with cooldown is primal damage. The way resistances and attacks have been mixed amongst each unit of every faction adds to the tactical preparation. It would be a bad idea to put Executioner with primal weakness against elves, because every elf unit has primal damage based attack. Aside from the units we can field, there is also a backline where 3 units can be slotted to provide additional combat bonuses. Every unit in the game has a unique backline passive. This adds another tactical layer to play with.
Wear them down.
Each combat encounter has specific conditions with at times optional conditions that rewards the player with an item. Unfortunately, the bonus condition system sucks. It gives enemies crazy buffs like more crit damage, health leeching strikes, full heal after killing a unit. Game tries to make things unfair this way to increase the challenge. Not a fan of arbitrary random conditions. Bigger problem is that any condition can occur at any encounter. Senseless RNG. Finish the fight in the first 2 or 3 rounds. On brutal difficulty, impossible. Conditions don't scale and have no sense for the encounters we are in. Or something like have 4 critical hits. Critical hits are random, so it's purely luck based if the condition is completed or not. Got no control over it. Or call to arms when enemies summon reinforcements. Enemy that summons reinforcements is chosen randomly, of course, during the fight. Worst thing about it is that I thought that a new unit would enter the fight, which could be problematic, but no. Something like 5 or 6 units come at once, practically making it game over on brutal. Bonus conditions suck. There's no thought behind it, it's just random nonsense to artificially increase difficulty in a non-immersive and nonsensical way. Badly missed opportunity. Let's move on. Enemy AI. Enemies are quite capable in how they position themselves and use abilities. I was pleasantly surprised. They will utilize everything they can, including collision damage. Collision damage occurs when a unit is pushed or pulled into another unit or into the battlefield's invisible wall next to the last square. So AI is quite capable when it comes to fighting, but sucks when it comes to nodes that pop up on the battlefield. Seems like AI doesn't register traps and buff pop-ups. Even though there are enough tactical elements, some are missing. There's no friendly fire whatsoever. Game has a lot of AoE attacks, so I get that it would be a nightmare to control all that. But some form of friendly fire, at least for couple attacks, would add another tactical layer that would make sense. There is also no attack of opportunity, or at least some kind of debuff when exiting melee. I know that's more of Dungeons and Dragons type thing, but still it would make sense to have it to a degree. Doesn't have to be an attack of opportunity, but maybe a debuff of sorts that would limit movement or something like that when exiting melee. Couple other things bothered me, like undead being healed like any other unit, even from divine based healing spells. Another thing that would significantly upgrade unit uniqueness would be some kind of a build system for each unit type, in a way that every unit has a skill tree to play around with, like the Queen has. There are also no unit ranks. Surviving units would benefit from that and could tie into such a skill tree. No unit ranks means no emotional attachment is possible with any unit because they are all cannon fodder. Aside from normal units, there are also unique versions of that unit acquired from quests. However, they look the same and have almost the same stats. They do have some differences, like different action points than the usual, maybe slightly different resistances, but ultimately very little difference. A missed opportunity for sure. Also, when a special unit dies, it's over for them, they're lost forever. I'm okay with that, at least there is some emotional attachment to such a unit so that we could pay more attention to them, but ultimately all of them are easily replaceable by their generic counterpart due to only small differences between them. From a technical standpoint, I have to commend combat animations, they're quite good. Hit feedback is not bad either. Visual effects are nice, but nothing exceptional. Unfortunately, death animations are always the same. I really wish turn-based game developers would work more towards some cool finishers. Imagine that every unit has a couple different fast finishers. Not long ones, because those get dull over time. Fast ones, like decapitation, simple stab, or bodies disintegrating into ash when doing some kind of elemental damage like fire. In turn-based games, high kill satisfaction in my opinion is a must, as it adds a lot of impact to combat. With such good animations that Disciples has, it's a shame they didn't put more effort into kill satisfaction. Unit responses are a mixed bag too. Some are annoying as hell. Imagine having an army of creepy crawlers making these terrible sounds all the time. No way to turn it off as well. Or demon who has a lisp or some sort of speech impediment that puts afraid debuff on enemies. What should other units be afraid of? Laughing too hard.
Death follows me.
For eons, Nevendar had been the play toy of the gods and the battlefield of their disputes. But our queen...
Before this early review summary, I have to talk a bit about the story. If I gave you a guess, what would you say the main focus of the story is?
The river, like poison, in the mountain's veins.
Melindrak, can you hear me? He needs our help.
Help. A dam. Against the river. Against the corruption.
Yes, you are correct. It's another corruption story. Mana gets corrupted and with it the world gets more fucked. I swear that writers put corruption in when they don't have anything interesting to write about. It's a shame, because they could have focused more on Queen's story, expanding on it significantly. Our character is a queen that did many great things in the past, but then fell off onto dark times. Disbanded her loyal subjects, lost authority and influence over her people, and became forgotten. After 20 years of doing fuck all, she decided it's time to shake things up due to visions of world being affected by corrupted mana. This creates a couple interesting interactions with the people. Some don't even know who she is when she talks to them, so companions often remind people to watch their mouth. Also, due to losing control and authority, others have gained power and are trying to keep the kingdom together, like the Countess who runs the show. So there's a few interesting tits measuring contest interactions here and there where we decide how to interact with important and unimportant NPCs. Couple decisions to be made too. No significant world building from decisions from what I've gathered, which is a shame. Missed opportunity. They should have removed the corruption part of the story and focused entirely on rebuilding the kingdom and dealing with many dangers ahead, with far more detailed and interesting quests, with a significant decision-making system that would affect the world in a major way. Not saying that quests suck or anything like that, as there are at times interesting decisions to be made, but it's a bit too bland overall. Writing doesn't have that lasting strength. Becomes quite predictable fast with generic dialogue. Even when things could potentially lead to something interesting, the story disappoints. For example, as we go and learn about Queen's life when she was depressed, we found out bits and pieces how it affected people close to her. One interesting story is about a father and son. We learned how father saved the Queen from herself, but was banished because of it. Naturally, I was interested in what exactly happened. And to my disappointment, I found out soon enough.
I don't even know. I had lost myself. I took everything my parents gave me. My sword rift, my armor. I was so ashamed of my...
No one can imagine what it is.
I took their gifts and...
I see, but I don't understand how that concerns Sebastian.
Me neither at the time. He went against my will. We fought, but in the end, he stole the sword and the suit of armor, and ran.
So that was his treason then?
Yes, ironic, isn't it? He knew that I would regret this act.
The Queen wanted to throw her family heirloom away, and father intervened to stop her from doing that.
I, for one, am glad he chose to
Bloody hell, way to over-exaggerate and under-deliver.
I knew where he went.
Instead of something really cool happening like wanting to tame a dragon or some shit like that, we find out she wanted to throw some stuff away. I'm sure George R.R. Martin is taking notes of such quality backstory writing. Maybe Cersei Lannister stubbed the toe when she was a child and decided that the world needs to burn from that point onward. So writing, aside from a few okay moments, is bland and weak mostly. It's just not that interesting. Dialogue also lacks more balls, literally. This game has a bit of an agenda to it. So far from what I've seen, every position of importance is held by women. I mean every. Only male leader is an evil elf, and that's a leader of a smaller elf separatist faction. Countess, queen, elf leader, couple captains of the guard, dwarf thief leader, all females. Game is really missing interesting male characters to stir the pot during these conversations, because at times it seemed like Disney princesses are talking amongst each other.
Probable explanation.
You two, shut up.
I concur. Shut up and focus on what's before us.
I am. Knowing who did this is of the utmost importance, and the dwarf is muddying the waters by making assumptions.
I say, let's just find those responsible for this massacre and ask them.
Unfortunately, writing overall is genetic, predictable and bland. On a few occasions when things could be interesting, it either tapers off quickly or leads to an uninteresting end.
To protect the elves, now stand as a divide between them.
Let's hope they will find their true purpose once again.
Early review summary. Disciples Domination is a disappointing experience in so many ways. Combat due to unit and faction diversity with a good amount of tactical depth is the biggest driving factor to keep playing it until the game becomes too easy, which means that it doesn't force the player to interact as much with the system anymore, aside from making the same changes over and over again, and leads to predictable outcomes. Maybe later the game becomes more difficult again, though a necessary experience system will always affect battles to a degree. Terrible castle management, bland writing, and characters don't have the quality to keep it interesting, so when interest in battles wanes, which it will, it's game over. There's not going to be anything anymore that could hold the interest. There were also quite a few performance issues with crashes with the vanilla version, but thankfully they patched that, it seems. Anyway, that would be it. Patreon, subscribe, star merch in the description. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more videos, though not from this game.